At some point, you stopped trusting yourself. Not all at once, slowly. You'd bring something up, something that happened, something they said, and they'd look at you like you were describing a dream. That's not what happened. You always twist things. I never said that. And the terrifying part, you started to believe them. Not because you're stupid, not because you can't remember, but because when someone rebuilds a moment you lived through, calmly, completely, like they were there and you weren't, something in you starts to flinch. And here's the thing most people get wrong about this. The danger isn't the lying. They're not sitting there thinking, I know what I did, let me cover it. That's not what this is. The danger is what happens after, when they sit down with your memory, the real one, the one you lived, and quietly rebuild it from the inside. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how that works and why it worked on you for as long as it did. The first sign is the one that starts it all. In every disagreement, every single one, your memory is the one that's wrong. Not sometimes, consistently. They remember exactly what was said, and somehow what they remember always clears them. What you remember is always slightly off, slightly colored by emotion, slightly unreliable. Here's how you read this. One conversation where two people remember things differently. That's just human. That happens. But when it happens across every difficult moment, when your account is always the one getting revised, that's not a coincidence. That's control. Because the moment you accept that your memory is unreliable, you've handed someone else the authority to tell you what happened. And once they have that authority, once you're no longer the trustworthy narrator of your own life, they can use it for anything. Watch the pattern, not the incident. Any single moment can be explained away. The pattern can't. But here's what most people don't realize. It's not just the facts they come for. It's what you felt about them. This one does the quietest damage. They don't just challenge what happened. They challenge what you felt about it. You were hurt. They tell you you were overreacting. You were uncomfortable. They tell you you're too sensitive. You were scared. They tell you you were being dramatic. Notice what that does. It doesn't say the moment didn't happen. It says your response to it was wrong, that your gut misfired, that the signal your body sent you, the one that said something is off, was just noise. And the thing is, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like someone who knows you well enough to see your blind spots, like they're trying to help you get yourself right. That's what makes it land. Over months, over years, the volume on your own instincts gets turned so far down, you can barely hear them. You stop bringing things up because you already feel like you won't be believed, even by yourself. Stay with me. We're halfway through. And the next 3 signs are the ones most people never see until it's too late. If you've been watching this and thinking, this sounds like something I've lived, but I can't quite place where, this next one is probably why. Because this sign is the one that makes everything else invisible. Here's the answer to the question we opened with. How does someone rebuild a moment you actually lived and make their version feel more solid than yours? They do it in private. This never happens in front of people. There's no record, no witness, no way to verify. Just the two of you and 2 versions of the same thing. And only one of you is certain. And when you try to get a second opinion, try to talk to someone you trust, try to triangulate what actually happened, suddenly there's a problem with that too. You're told you're making others uncomfortable, that what happens between you stays between you, that going outside the relationship is disloyal. That's not protection. That's a closed loop. Because when your only reference point for what happened is the person who is telling you it didn't happen. You don't have a disagreement anymore. You have a reality with no exit. And once that loop is closed, the language they use makes it nearly impossible to push back. Think about the last time you tried to bring something up. You'd been holding it, waiting for the right moment, trying to find the words that wouldn't set anything off. And before you even finished, before you got to the part that mattered, it was already somewhere else. Listen for this language. Once you hear it, you won't stop hearing it. You always do this. You never remember things right. You're so quick to assume. This is exactly what happened last time. Those aren't arguments. They're frames. Before you've even made your case, they've established a pattern, one where you are the unreliable narrator of your own life, where whatever you're about to say is already suspect, not because of what you're saying, because of who you are. Right when you needed space to think, the pressure started. Right when you needed to be heard, you were being corrected, and you couldn't figure out how the conversation moved so fast from what happened to who you are. That's the mechanism. It's not about the facts anymore. It's about your character. And once you're defending who you are, you've already lost the thread of what you were actually trying to say. You start editing yourself before you even speak, going over the words in your head first, not to be clear, to make sure nothing can be used against you. And then comes the reset. Sometimes they apologize. And that apology is what resets the whole cycle. Watch what the apology actually does. A real apology names what happened. It puts your experience at the center. It says, I did this, and it hurt you, and that matters. What you've been getting is different. I'm sorry you felt that way. I'm sorry this has been hard for you. I'm sorry you took it like that. Read those again slowly. None of them say, I did something. Every single one repositions your pain as your interpretation, something that happened inside you, not something done to you. That's not an apology. That's a closing argument. It ends the conversation just long enough for the next cycle to begin. And you take it, not because you're naive, but because you're exhausted. Because the atmosphere has been so hard to breathe in for so long that any version of peace feels worth accepting. One apology like that is nothing. A consistent pattern where your hurt is always framed as your construction, that's the architecture. And here's what living inside that architecture actually does to a person. You start to miss a version of yourself you can't quite place anymore. You stop bringing things up, not because nothing's wrong, but because you already know how it ends. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You choose words carefully, not to be clear, to be unsaleable. You catch yourself saying, maybe I'm wrong, in situations where you used to be certain. You apologize for things you didn't do just to make the air breathable again. That's not you losing your mind. That's you adapting to an environment where the truth kept shifting. There's a word for what's been happening: gaslighting. You may have heard it, but the definition doesn't capture what it actually feels like. The specific kind of tired. The way you stop trusting the signals your own body sends you. The way you start to feel like a bad witness to your own life. I need you to hear this clearly. The problem was never your memory, never your perception, never the way you feel things. The problem was that you were in a relationship where all of those things were being quietly contested every single day. That's not a character flaw. That's a response to something real. You can't argue someone back into the truth when they've already replaced it, but you can stop handing yourself over to it. 3 things. First, document. Not to build a case, but because your memory needs a witness when someone keeps contesting it. A note on your phone right after it happens. Something that exists outside the room where reality keeps shifting. Second, watch the pattern, not the incident. Any single moment can be explained away. The pattern can't. Pay attention to how you feel after the conversation, Not during. During, you're reactive. After, you get clearer. Third, accept that some people's entire internal world is organized around never being wrong. You can't fix that. You can't wait for the conversation that finally lands. You can only choose your own reality over someone else's rewrite of it. That's not giving up. That's getting your perception back. If any of these 5 signs landed somewhere specific, drop it in the comments. Even just the number. Someone else is going to read it and feel less alone. Subscribe if you're new. Every week, we go deeper. Next video, why you might have been chosen specifically and what that says about your strength, not your weakness. Read the behavior before it reads you.